Hello and good morning. Welcome to Tea Time with Amie and Bev. Good morning, Miss Beverly.
Good morning. As I tried to say a few times, interrupting.
Should let you introduce yourself from now on. I say, this is Amie. This is Bev.
I'll let you do it.
I just took control over the whole thing at the beginning, so it's just habit now. So if you would like to introduce yourself, you're more than welcome to.
Well, thank you.
What's happening in your world?
Again, been enjoying some of the weather. Been getting a little bit of rain, so that's nice. And some of the animals running around these days. Got to see 4 antelope this morning, so that was nice.
Got to see a fox. Like up close,
What?
like a fox.
Just recently?
Yeah, it was probably about 40 feet away. We were up in the Wallapies and we were at a barbecue and they took a pan and they had some scraps in it. And it was dark. We were still hanging out and just came up, started eating. It was just sitting there, just eating, just watching us, eating and watching us. And then if somebody made a sudden move or got up, it would scurry off. But then you look over and it was back. And we got to enjoy his presence for quite some time. It was cool.
Pretty awesome.
Exciting.
Pretty awesome. Well, yeah. Hey, you know what? When we can say that's our excitement, that's awesome. This is like watching the stars at night. That's one of my exciting things that I do every day. So
yeah,
nice.
Awesome.
See all the craziness out there.
We love the rain. We love the rain in our area. What? Need more. We need more. Wow. So anything you've been working on this week or anything that has stood out for you? Anything that's like conversations, regular conversations or coaching or?
Those always come up as we go, but it's like, for me, it's still focusing on the more that I'm paying attention to stuff outside of me, bringing it back to inside or to noticing what I feel, what do I need. That's really my goal, just my practice. And lately, I've just been listening to more stuff while I'm in the vehicle. Like I'm listening to one of Esther and Jerry Hicks books on audio. Jerry is talking, and been listening to the spirit science on those shows, and just trying to get into my reading and stuff, and even listen to the meditation that you had sent over. So I did that this morning too, which was interesting because there was on the property that we're on across from us, there's it's BLM land, and there was some hunters they've been kind of setting up there every morning. It's like, I don't know why, because there's dogs here. They're going to come out and bark, if they see anything, because they will. And I'm sitting out there this morning and listening to a meditation, letting the sun hit on me. And the dogs started barking. I get up and I look to see what it was. It was 4 antelope. They were headed towards the area that the hunters were at, and the dogs scared them and sent them back the opposite direction. And I was like, yes. I mean, I know people got to eat and stuff, but
Interesting.
Yeah.
Things happen for a reason. So a story that was just shared with me recently. Last week I had to scoot out because I had breakfast, right? I had to go meet my mom for breakfast, right? I totally kind of spaced it for a moment. But anyway, we're having breakfast and she says that her and her boyfriend there was a property and a home they wanted to purchase over in Oklahoma. And they really wanted it, they really liked it and all this, but by the time they inquired about it, it was already under contract. And I just looked at her, I said, there's a reason why you didn't get it. It's okay, right? And I could tell, you can just tell when people don't want to hear you. And so she keeps talking about it, and I said, and there's a reason why you didn't get it, so it's okay, and just it's all right. There's a reason. Didn't want to hear that. I must have said it 3 times. just like in casual, just like that. Um, 3 days later, she sent me a text, and the text says, that property in Oklahoma I was talking about? Well, we looked into it some more and found out that it's uh, in flood area. There's tornadoes. There's alligators. And I was just like, yeah, I'm not visiting you. You go buy a piece of land like that, right? So anyway, I just, I reminded her that I said, everything happens for a reason, and there's a reason why you didn't get that, and it's okay. And her response was, yeah, I heard you, but I didn't want to hear it.
Which you already knew.
Which I already knew at the time. But it's things like that. It's just like people who, this is just my sick humor. People who in human form don't want to either believe in that we're spirit and body, or that we are returned to spirit when we drop this physical body. Because like myself and you, I mean, lots of people are open to it. Especially my family and friends, I'm just like, yeah, and you'll be visiting me after you transition. I know it. Like, you don't want to hear me now, but you'll figure it out. And then you're going to come visit me. And I won't be able to sleep. And anyway, I have a crazy sense of humor in that way.
Yeah, no, it's good. And it's things like that always show up. But the thing is, and I was just talking to one of my friends yesterday, it's like just about the same thing you just said. Sometimes we just don't want to hear what's being brought to us. We don't want to see what's being brought to us. We keep asking for this advice and asking for this help and asking for this guidance. But when it gets there, we don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear what the guidance is coming forward. And if we can kind of see things more neutrally or on a bigger picture, from a bigger picture, then it we don't feel like it's a bad thing, because it's not what we wanted. That's the problem with most of us. We have it set in our minds that's what I want, and that's the only thing that's going to satisfy me. But you limit yourself when you do that. It's just like in a relationship. I could use a few family members for my experience. My mom had passed away, and my dad always wants someone to be like my mom, and it's like, you want someone to be like her, maybe the good things that she had, but you want to be open for the other stuff that could come forward, because you're limiting yourself when you say you want it to be exactly like that person. And he doesn't do that as like he did it before, but it's like he does. And it's even for me personally, and I'm talking to in my relationships and stuff, and it's like, and it's the same thing. They just want, well, I just want you. I don't want anybody else. But it's like I said, same thing I told him. It's like you limit yourself, because you don't know what more is out there for you. Or even if it was in our situation or whatever, for us to come together, then that will happen. It could be down the road somewhere. But it's like, quit limiting yourself. Even for me, and that's really the big message, because if I'm noticing it's a big message for me to quit limiting myself. So I'm not. So I'm just like open. I'm just open and enjoying the ride. So that's part of my journey right now too.
Yep. And I've done it.
Not having expectations.
Yeah, I've asked for help and guidance, and then get the information. I'm like, nope.
Oh yeah.
I'm not doing that, or I don't want to make that decision, or that feels uncomfortable, or that's too scary, or it's against my beliefs, or whatever it might be. But had I followed the information, or I'd been given an opportunity later to follow that guidance, and then when I did, like, the doors just like flew open, and things were amazing. And yeah.
Trying to control, right? We don't realize that even though we know we're learning not to control things, or not to try to have such a control on things, but we still do it. It's just something we've been practicing. I've been practicing it for probably 50 years, or close to. So it's just a matter of, slowing down enough to recognize the things that I'm doing. It's not even so much what everybody else is doing. It's what am I doing?
So true. And, you know, and because several years ago, I realized like I could, because I experienced it myself as a student, as a client, and then stepping into that coaching and teaching role, that, you know, people want help, but it's got to be on their terms, right? So they have to be able to hear the information being provided, and it has to feel good to them. It has to resonate with them. And years ago, I just, you know, before I sit in a teaching or even tea time, anything I do that's got communication involved, where I'm speaking or teaching, coaching, uh, prior to, I will say a prayer. And my prayer is, I ask that I'm open and receptive to the information and knowledge of the universe, and that the words that I speak, they can hear, listen to, and act upon. So I'm opening myself up to allow information to flow through me in a way that you could hear it. And when you hear it, it resonates with you. And when it resonates with you, then you'll take action. So that's my prayer. And I mean, majority of the time, it works pretty good.
Yep.
And sometimes that information flows through, and I'm just like, you know, I'm like, what the hell is that? But I say it, and then somebody, whoever I'm speaking to, they're just like, oh my God, that's what I needed to hear. And okay, you know, it's just like doing a reading, card reading, tarot reading, angel card readings. You're listening to that intuitive guidance. And so I would say that like I'm more of an intuitive coach, because I'm connecting to your energy. I'm connecting to the information that's flowing through me for you. When there's a group of people, we know like attracts like. And so everybody in that group has some common denominator. And so there's going to be something that I say that, you know, only a few people will get this sentence, but another handful are going to get another sentence, right? So they're going to get the information that they need. Some people are going to be at that like beginner level, and some people a little more advanced. And so the information is going to come through for what they want, but it's up to them to take that information and utilize it. So then that's my prayer, is that they can hear it, they can listen to it, and then they can take the action.
If they don't take action right away, at least you know you planted some seeds.
Right.
That's what we do all the time. Even though I remember being a kid and my parents telling me something, of course, my initial reaction was like, defensive, like against them. But later on, I would listen to them. I would hear the words, and it's like I would be like, they're right. So I would probably change whatever I was doing at that time. But yeah, all we can do is plant seeds. We may not see how that grows right then, but eventually, if they come back into your experience again, you'll notice a difference.
And you know, we're amazed.
Just good stuff.
Yeah. And if our seeds are so powerful. I've really found that out. Like just a little subtle statement can trigger somebody into a whole new direction. And then there's times where I know they're not ready to hear it. And I will physically say out loud to them, I'm just planting a seed. Just give me something to think about, something to contemplate, a way to see it differently.
Yep.
That's all I'm doing, right? And then I leave it alone, walk away or whatever, go on to a different topic. But yeah, and our statements, our words, it is amazing how powerful they are and how influential they are. So as you know, as a coach and a teacher, sometimes I have to be very mindful of what I'm saying, because people will take those words. I mean, they're looking up to me for that guidance. And so being aware that it is not my job to tell you what to do with your life. It is my job to guide you. on that journey. And you have to go into your heart center and know what feels good to you. So it's very seldom that I, tell people you should or you have to or you need to. If I say, you need to get out of your head and into your heart, that's a need, because we live from our head so much, right? But if I said, Bev, you need to leave him, that's not my job. That's for you to discern. If somebody is having discord in a relationship, I will guide them in what feels good to them. Do you want to work on this? Do you want to, what do they want? It's not for me. Like if I've had relationship problems, I can't bring that into the session. I can't say, oh, well, all men are just assholes. Can't do that. I gotta take my whole life, everything aside, like taking, kind of like Esther, right? Esther Hicks, when she's channeling Abraham, she takes herself aside so Abraham can channel through. The same for my position as a coach and teacher is I bring forth the seeds. You figure out what feels good to you. You figure out the direction you want to go, and then we work on that. And then if you find that direction doesn't feel good anymore, now we make a shift, right? We're just going to take the off ramp on the freeway and we're going to just take another direction. So just being mindful that take what feels good to you in your heart. You got to get out of our head. Our head is just controlling, can be damaging, that's where our fear lives. Like none of that lives in our heart center.
It operates off of our experiences.
Yeah.
Sometimes those aren't very good experiences, and that's something else that, learning that discernment between the two, is between the small voice that you get, I'm recognizing as soon as I start spinning things, as soon as my mind starts taking something, like I might feel the whole situation might have felt great, and then all this worry and fear starts popping in, right? So from previous experiences, oh my God, this happened in the past, this could happen, or you've heard about it, or whatever. Instead of the initial reaction was it felt good, everything felt right, and then you start thinking about it.
I just listened. This is so fascinating to me because I tell you all the time. So enjoy learning how our brain works, how our emotion, like the whole package, right? How we operate as humans. And recently, I listened to a lady speak about epigenetics, and one of the things that they have found, and she used the Holocaust as an example, that you have. Let's say my great-grandparents they didn't, but let's say my great-grandparents went through the Holocaust. Well, going through that experience changes your genes. Like it changes the stuff inside of us, okay? And because now that is a program within their body, within their cells, it's handed down generation to generation that anything that happens similar to this experience, you need to be on guard. You need to know it's not safe. You need to, be aware, right? And it could go 2, 3, 4, generation after generation after generation. And so there was a lady who, she got to a point in her life where she was just waking up every day depressed. She had no reason to. She had a good life, and she just did not understand why she was feeling this way every day. She'd wake up. And so she went to somebody who knew about this type of information, and somehow pardon my absence there, had to plug in my laptop. Somehow the conversation led to the Holocaust, and she goes, that's it. I'm waking up every day in fear that the Holocaust is going to happen again. Because she's carrying those memory cells from her great-grandparents, right? And then they proved this in rats. So what they did is they took a nice scent, like I think they used like a cherry wood scent, and the mouse or the rat was attracted to it, but every time it was attracted to it, they shocked it. So then the association is that that scent is not good, and you have to be afraid of it. And then it had babies, right? And then more babies, and they found that through each generation, they were all afraid of that scent, even though they'd not been exposed to it.
Makes total sense. It does. Even for me, there's been stuff that's like you can't seem to put a finger on it. You don't know why. You got these like crazy thoughts that kind of come through, and it's like these are not mine. And, I mean, otherwise I'm freaking crazy, or than I thought. But no, because it happens. I understand that completely, really. And I know that it's not mine. I know that it's my mom's. But now you're saying that it's like, well, now I'm thinking it's not just my mom's. It was my mom's mom or family or whatever they picked up, whatever they learned to guide them to keep them safe, right? To think that it's keeping them safe.
Yeah, and I know that this could be similar. I've thought about it and thought about it, but my mom um, was very close on the verge of attempting suicide. I never attempted it, but I like woke up every day for many, many years thinking about it, thinking about how I could end my life. And then my son also experienced the suicide thoughts. And he actually went as far as almost pulling the trigger. And all three of us, though, completely different like topics, completely different topics. And so I just was like, wow, if my mom's carrying that energy, then I'm going to pick that up because we're connected, right? I'm a part of her. And even though I had a different experience, I was in it like daily. And because I'm carrying that energy, and now my son, not only I had that energy when I was pregnant, and then afterwards for several years. And I mean, it just to me it made sense. And I've been thinking about this way before I heard anything about epigenetics. I think it's Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden and Joe Dispenza are the three off the top of my head that I can think of who talk about epigenetics. But even before I heard about them, I saw this pattern, and it fascinated me because it really makes us or made me aware of how strong our energy is and how we unknowingly contribute to each generation. And so I find that as more people are healing, going through a healing process, they're learning about this stuff, and they're learning about clearing up their energy and healing and doing their forgiveness process. How much is that going to affect the generations that are coming?
Well, the generations are already here, right? That we've already created.
Like so you've been going through your process for a while, and now you're being an example for your children, but you're being a bigger influence for your grandchildren.
Oh yes.
And so many people, I think so many people are doing that now, and so the generations that are flourishing are coming. Like this planet is going to go through it's going to take some generations maybe, but a lot of healing,
A lot of transitions. Yes.
and the more that it happens, then the less war there will be, the less addiction there will be, less pain, right? We're learning how to.
There won't be anything to be against.
Say that again.
I was gonna say there won't be anything to be against. You're not against anything. You're not having to defend yourself against anything. Things are different. You have a different perception. Just like if we go back to you talking about that tribe that's somewhere in the world that communicates telepathically, then you get to a place where you just operate differently. And we're in a huge transition time frame right now.
For sure.
To me, it looks like it's more physical and stuff, but I think it's just, I really feel like it's a lot spiritual, a lot. And people have to learn, it's teaching different ways, just like for us, it's learning different ways of being, or just being, period. Not having to go out and do something, not having to control something, not having to make it be what you want it to be, how you want to orchestrate it. It's like, I just want to be freaking happy.
Yeah. And you control. So, that's why I was thinking, so many people feel out of control because their whole world's been turned upside down and they're not allowing themselves to relax in the flow of change.
Exactly.
In fact, one of my teachers right now, he was telling a story about two restaurants, and they're about 3 miles apart. One is on one side of the road and the other one's on the other side of the road. And when 2020, this whole hoopla started and the businesses had to, close, one person, one business owner, restaurant owner, flipped a lid, right? It's the president's fault. It's the governor's fault, blaming everybody and everything else. Whereas the other business, he said within like three to 5 days, they put a like a drive-through and a canopy up and did all these modifications inside so that the workers were working at a space and like their business flourished. It's learning. So many people are afraid to change, and it's because of the control issue that and when things change, like all their beliefs have been there's an uproar in the beliefs, right? They've just been shuffled around, and now they just don't know what to do, and it's a freeze type of thing, like, holy shit, I don't know what to do, all these people did this to me. When it's like, no, change is to evolve, change is to do something different. And a lot of people have been asking for something different, and here it is, and then they just don't know what to do with it. And it could be as simple as, take a class online. It could be that simple.
The thing is, we think we know better. And the whole thing I would say is I go back to me thinking that I know. And when we think we know better, we don't allow anything else good to come in. Yep. Nothing. But we don't know better. And so even when I say I want to be happy, I don't know what that looks like. I can't control what that looks like, because if I say I want to be happy, I might be shown ways of being happy that I never even possibly thought about, because I hadn't learned about it. It wasn't in my wheelhouse. It wasn't in my toolbox. So it's like being open. So the other company was open to whatever information flew through to them. And it's like, oh, we can do this. We can do it this way. So instead of looking at the problem, they were looking at the solution.
They were looking at the solution, and they were finding a way to serve.
Yeah.
Their business is service. If you're in business, you're in service.
Yep.
And so it's evolve or change in a way that you can serve your clients, serve your audience.
It's true.
But you got to be open for it.
That's right. Which our conversation kind of has revolved around the same thing. It's back to the beginning of the conversation. You talked about, talking to someone and telling them something, but they didn't want to hear it at the time.
Yep.
But it's like, but then she found her relief by finding that there was problems with the property, so that she could let it go. Mm-hmm. She admitted that, she didn't want to hear it. And it's the same thing. It's like, she only let a teeny tiny piece of that information to come in and soothe her. That was the way it could come in and soothe her, that she would allow. Yeah. Because she had to be in fault with it in order for her to let it go.
And during our conversation, she just kept talking about it, how much they wanted it, and how, about the finances, and just on and in there, I was like, well, there's a reason why you're not getting it. And she just go on and on and on and hanging on to that story until she was shown.
Exactly.
And I told her in the conversation, I said, you may not ever know it, but there's a reason why you're not getting that property. But and this is true, I mean, I've done it too, that to believe in something unknown is to have faith. And to say that everything happens for a reason and you may not ever know that reason is to have faith that there was a reason. But as humans, we want to know. We want to know why, right? We want to know the answer. And as long as if she had never received that information, she would have kept talking about it to everybody she comes across, right?
Yep.
And keeping that story alive. And in a way, as I talk about it, I could, it may not be, I don't know if this is true for her or not, but to think that, well, this is another thing to prove I'm not worthy of it, or I don't deserve something that good, or, I'm not good enough. The stories that we have underneath all of it, as long as she was talking about that story of not getting the property, she would be continuously keeping that story alive of I'm not good enough. It was proof.
Yeah.
It was proof. But now that she has the reason why she didn't get the property, now she can tell the story from a different perspective. And what she does with that information, is up to her. So
Just another form of keeping ourselves stuck, not allowing, so another way of looking at that too would be like, what was all the things that she appreciated about the properties, and write down, like, focus on all the things you appreciated so that the right property can come forward, or the right thing can come forward, being allowing. That's practicing allowing on a small scale, that, in your own personal life, just practicing.
mm-hmm.
Who knows what's going to come from it?
So
when we get so limited, we block ourselves from what we could really have.
Right. And so as long as you're keeping the story alive of I'm not good enough, and you keep telling that story, then the door's shut. You're not allowing anything else in. But if you go, well, there's a reason why that didn't happen, so I'm opening a door for something even better to come. And that was a story I had to tell myself, because of course I had the not good enough story. I had the I don't deserve, I'm not worthy of. I need to be punished. And I had to change that story. And so when something didn't work out the way I thought it should work out, or the way I wanted it to work out, I would say, okay. And I'd have to say this to myself every single time, for multiple times, is everything happens for a reason. I'm just opening a door for something better to come. And I had to keep reminding myself of that, because as long as I was saying that story, you can't have two thoughts at the same time. So I had to pick a thought. And that was the thought. And I would just repeat it over and over and over until I felt comfortable with it. Otherwise, I would have kept the other story alive, that I didn't deserve it, or I wasn't worthy of it.
Gotcha.
So it's a practice. I'm going to tell you, you have to decide what story you want to hang on to. And the story of I'm not good enough, I don't deserve, that's all in my head. That's stories I've created in my head, and it doesn't feel good, right? We talk about this almost every week. What feels good? Well, when you're coming from your headspace, majority of the time, it doesn't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
But if I drop into my heart and say, you know what, I'm spirit and body, I do deserve good things. I am worthy of good things. I am loved. I'm already loved and accepted by spirit, by the universe, by source, by God. It already exists within me. It's my innate right, because I am spirit and body. I'm already pure love, right? So I do deserve good things. So when I have that conversation with myself, and I'm doing it now, put my hand on my heart, it's reminding me to come from my heart space and to have that conversation from my heart space, because that actually relaxes my body, and it's because I know it's truth. The head doesn't tell you the truth.
Also, at the same time you're practicing, you're actually putting different information into your subconscious, so that the next time you experience these experiences, now when the head starts coming into play, it starts putting forward a different story instead of what we've practiced from before. from the fear stuff. So it's not always, some people say, well, you can fake it till you make it. Sometimes it's not really, I mean, you really can't do it that way, but if you can find words that don't feel like they're blocking you, and then you can practice that statement, it does open you up. It goes into your subconscious. You don't have any like tugs pulling it backwards. You're allowing it to go forward. So it's really, again, going to feelings. You got to feel your words. You got to feel what you're saying. Does that feel all right to you? Does it feel like you can believe that? And then setting yourselves up for that as well. So going into the subconscious part of things. So we're not just stuck in our head, because our head's not a bad thing. It's just that it's been practicing survival skills all the way back to, just like they were talking about the person before, that all the way back to the Holocaust. You know what I mean? It's those survival skills all the way from then that person it was carried on into the family. So it's some different ways of reprogramming, because I'm sure that probably set the DNA differently or something differently in their, like you said, epigenetics, that changed their whole belief system. It kept them in a fear space. In that fear space, they thought was going to keep them alive. So it's just reprogramming ourselves too.
Yeah, and it may take, I mean, it really will probably take some time to get comfortable coming from a heart space. And in the beginning, you may, put your hand on your heart and speak from your heart center, and you might cry and cry and cry because you're making a shift from your old story to something new. And even though speaking from the heart center and from spirit, it is truth, you're going through that reprogramming, and sometimes you're going to kick and scream because it's uncomfortable, it's unknown, it's foreign. But you know that when you go from those old stories into your heart space and speak truth, that the tears are a cleansing, the tears are of a releasing, the tears are of joy. And you get to that space of having tears of joy, then you realize, wow, I've just been living, basically, I'm going to use the word lie. I've been living a lie all these years by these stories that I've been telling that are uncomfortable, that bring tension into my body. But when I speak from my heart, speak my truth, I notice how my body relaxes and how good that feels. And being in a space of feeling good in that way is still foreign. So it's going to take some practice to be in that space more often.
But focus on it. Focus on being in that space, because that's the whole thing. We read these things. Because I say we, but I'll read these books and I'll see this stuff, and it's like I don't put it into practice, and I don't put it as my focus. So I want all these things, but I don't focus on any one thing. So it's like lately, it's like that's what I'm changing, that focus. Yep. We even talked about last week about how we'd spend time. Well, I started catching myself spending too much time playing a freaking game. It was mindless, and I could go into it, and I might have some ideas that popped in my head, but then it seemed like, and then I just noticed I was getting bored with it. I was getting bored with it because it's like this is not fulfilling me. It's not filling up my spirit. It's not filling up me with joy. It's not doing anything for me.
Yep.
So I switched my whole focus because I already have those tools. Even though I didn't act on them this whole time, the last few years or whatever, on all of them, now they're starting to come into play. So it's like, again, not beating yourself up because I'm not meditating, I'm not reading the books, I'm not going and watching the YouTube videos. So because I would beat myself up for stuff like that. If I would just go do that, I'd probably feel better. Well, yeah, you probably would, but it's like, how are you talking to yourself? And that's how I was talking to myself about the stuff. So I had to go through the experience again, in which we'll probably do it over and over and over again, recognize what I was doing, and then just changed it. I woke up this morning and changed how I started my day. Got out of that habit.
And the more you change, the more your children change and your grandchildren change, and how it affects your great-grandchildren. Yeah. All those after that, even though you're not even going to be here. Yeah. It physically. I'm going to finish that statement. Physically, you're not going to be here, but genetically, you're making that change.
It's true.
Keep going, sister. Keep going.
Yeah, I was gonna say the main focus is just to focus on me getting through it right now, and I do recognize how it affects all of them as well, all of them, and the subtle stuff. You don't even have to say anything. It's an energy.
Should we do a process right now? Would you like to do that?
Sure.
Just do a brief focus on the heart space.
Okay.
All right. I'm just feeling guided to do that. If there's something more you want to talk about, we can. But we have about 10 minutes or so, and it may not take that long. So,
Be good.